Hello everyone, welcome back. This is part 2 of the Linux for Beginners series. If you have not seen the part 1, go back to my channel. You can find it in the playlist. Now, in the part 1, I just gave a brief intro about Linux, about kernel subsystem, flavors, and why do we really need Linux or why do we really use Linux. In this one, I will deep dive on the command line interface. Basically, how do you really navigate through command line? What are the most common commands that you would use as a Linux engineer? And then in the next videos, I'll deep dive on multiple sections that I've already explained in the previous video. Now, before starting this video, let me introduce myself. I'm Sushil. I have more than a decade of industry experience. I am a certified cloud and DevOps expert, and I have helped multiple organizations deploy their cloud, their on-premises, their virtual environments, their Windows, Linux, backup DR implementations using DevOps best practices. Or when I started, DevOps was not really a thing. So I've been in the industry, have been working on multiple tools, multiple skills throughout a decade. I'm passionate about fitness and technology, and I share my knowledge using my personal blog, which is the techguy.in. Now, again, giving you a brief intro about the series. This is a 7-part series. This video is only talking about Linux basic and command line interface. But these are the rest of the other series, which is introduction. I'll talk about file system, package management, process management, networking, and eventually the shell scripting and automation also. So let's deep dive. Let's jump back in the video. Now this will be majorly the lab and demonstration because I want to walk through the command line. But first of all, I'll give you the background of what I talked in the previous video, and then I will share what commands we were talking about. So if you haven't seen my previous video, you can go ahead and check that. In my previous video, I just gave a brief about cd, about pwd, about ls, and wildcard. So you can use these commands. You can use cd to change directory, which is similar as Windows. In Windows also you use cd. Pwd really is the command to check your present working directory. You can use ls, as the name suggests, to list the files in the directory where you are, or probably you can use ls space your directory name, and then you have bunch of different parameters to customize and get the output that you want. And then you can use multiple wildcards based on how you want to customize and tweak your commands. Now you can take screenshot of this. These are certain cif commands which I think everybody who is planning to even learn fundamental Linux should know these. ls, you can take the screenshot if you want, but after this I'll just walk you through. ls helps you list files, folders, whatever there is. cd helps you change directory. pwd helps you list or get the present working directory. mkdir, similar to Windows, lets you create your created directory. rm helps you remove, as the name suggests, remove folder, file, whatever, depends. -r gives the recursive option, -f gives the force option. I do not really recommend using -f. It's always a good choice to use rm without -f so that you really know what you're removing. mv helps you move your files. When I say move, you can also use it to rename the files also. cp helps you copy. grep helps you search, which we have already seen in the previous video. You can use grep with different parameters to tweak how you want it, and then you can use cat to display file contents. But in my practical scenario, in my day-to-day life, I do not really use cat. Instead, I use less, because less lets you view files interactively. You can search also. You can view line by line, page by page. I'll show in the lab why I'm saying I use less. Then you can use head. So for example, there is a file that you want to check, and you're not really bothered about checking everything. You just want to check top few lines. or you want to check bottom few lines, or for example there's a command that is giving an output and you want to check, for example you're checking backup, right? You're checking backup and you want to check last three backups. So and the machine can have 10 and hundreds of backups, so you do not really want all that. So you can use head and tail to find out. Head minus n tells you, and then after n you can use the number. It will list top n items from top, and similarly tail lists bottom n items from that particular list. Ch mode and ch on, I will not deep dive right now, but I just wanted to talk about ch mode and ch on, because I'll be talking about it in the next part of the series. Ch mode really helps you change the file permissions, and ch on helps you change the file ownership. And then ln helps you create the symbolic links. Now I'll talk about symbolic links later. Now du and df, you can also check the file system. You can also check the current folder. You can check the size, you can check the status, you can check everything. So du and df helps you. So df basically helps you list the file system, and du helps you list the current directory. Tree helps you get the structure, tree structure. It's just like dir in Windows. File helps you determine the file type. Stat, check the status of the systems, check the status of the file. And top and ps helps you list the process. Now just the intro, so that when I talk about these commands you know what I'm really talking about. Now let's jump in the demo. First of all, how do you really connect to a machine? And by this I am assuming you are having a Linux machine for your hands-on. If you do not, and if you really want me to show a demo how you create your Linux machines, I can do that as well. Now majorly, I mean 99.9% organization people, everybody uses putty, but there are other tools also. But putty is really lightweight, it gives you all the functionality, everything that you need. In putty you can enter your host name and IP address, and you can select port. SSH, I mean we connect to this. So you connect to Windows using RDP, which is port 3389, and similarly on Windows you connect using port SSH, which is by default 22. There is no logical reason of changing SSH port from 22 to anything, but unless your organization or the machine that you're changing, that machine doesn't listen SSH on 22, it listens on some other port, then you can use that port also. But ideally by default everywhere SSH is 22, nobody really changes it. So you can enter your host name, you can enter your IP address, and then you can enter, or you can open. Or if you think this machine you're going to use it every time, you can just enter your, for example I can 10.10.10.10, just a dummy thing, and dummy and then I save it. So next time I can just double click on dummy and it will work. It will not right now because this IP doesn't really mean anything. Similarly, I've saved my Ubuntu Linux lab VM, and then when I do it, it tries to connect. Let me change the appearance, and let me change the font to 14 so that it's clearly visible. Okay, it asks you for login. You enter your password, and I'm logged in. Now when you're logged in, it gives you all the prompt, which is default. You can also customize this prompt. I don't really want to talk about it because you're not going to do it anyway. The organizations have set it up, unless you're working as a hardcore Linux implementation or the implementation side on this. Now when you log in, this is the user. If you want to see which user you are currently logged in, this is the user that I'm currently using, and this is my machine name. So this user and machine name, and this is the directory where I'm logged in. This is the directory where I'm logged in. So by default, when you log in, you land into the home page or home directory of that particular user. For example, if I do this, every user will get I again deep dive on these directory structure in the part 3, and this one is just to introduce you about the CLI. So I'll not deep dive on the folder structure because that is for the next video. But every user every user gets a directory under home, and then your directories and files and everything gets created in this. Right now I do not have it because it's just my first login, and I'm not really created anything. But there can be a scenario where your user, for example, let me give you this. It might will not be able to probably access this folder because ideally, see, the best scenario is, or best use case, your account, or you will be given a user, and this user will only have access to the files, folders, or execute permissions or whatever, depending on what your account is or what you're really expected to do. Now there is no logical reason why my user should be able to access root folder. Now in Windows you've seen administrator. Similarly in Linux, root is the administrator user or the super user. So there is no logical reason why my SUSHBHAT, this my personal account, should be able to access root lab. So it doesn't really have permission. It doesn't really have permission to read this. I can assign permissions. I can really do that. Not right now, but maybe when I log in as a root, and then I can assign this user permission to access this. But this is what I wanted to show. Now in these scenarios, you might either want to do this sudo. I don't think this will work, but let's try. It will not work anyway. But sudo gives you, I've talked about in the previous video, sudo lets you run elevated privileges, but then with sudo you run really execute and all those things. But what you can do is I can try to switch user. I can, so you can use su is switch user, and then you tell this username. For example, let me tell, there is another user that I've created on this machine, Sushil. So and it asks me the password for Sushil, and I'm logged into the Sushil. Now you see my user is changed. Now I'm logged in as Sushil. It was as user SHBHAT. So you can really use SU to switch. And for example, if I want to switch to root, and now this minus tells it that I want to switch to the root user. Now I do not, I really haven't set permission or the password for the root user, and that is why it will give me this error. It's a Linux machine, and by default I do not have password set for root. I can do it, I can change it, but I don't really want to do it right now. Now I can do it as, I can run this command as sudo as the elevated privilege, and which should, if my user, if Sushil user has access, now if you see, I've changed my user to root. So right now we just talked about SU, the switch user, and what these things really mean. Okay. Now you can use clear to clear your command, just like CLS in Windows. Now next thing is, I want to show you ls. Ls is the list directory, or list files, folders, whatever, everything. Now ls, you can just list it, but it doesn't really help me, right? I do not know what is size, what I can use ls -a. -a will really help you if you have hidden files, hidden folders. In Linux also you have hidden file and folders. L helps me to get in the list format, and H, or let me show you AL first. Now AL, these files are really small, but there can be huge files also. I want to see it in a readable, human readable format. So what I will do is I will do H, human readable. I really want to see, okay, this is 34 KB, this is 839 bytes, this is 760 bytes, 1.5 word, blah, blah, blah. So H gives me the human readable, L gives me, because of L I'm getting this list format, and A really tells me the hidden files. I mean, this dot is basically the parent directory, and dot is basically current directory, but this is what ls-alh helps you do it. Now anything that you see with in green is basically because these files have, again, this is in part 3, I'll not deep dive, but these I have execute permission on these files. This X is a basically execute permission, and this basically tells you whichever has D is directory, whichever has minus is file, and then what is the permissions that my user group and others have. So this really helps you navigate and see what time it was changed, who is the owner, I mean who is the user and the group, and then permissions and everything. That is what ls does. And then I can use cd also. Now cd is change directory. In cd there are not lot of parameters you can pass, because that doesn't make sense. I mean, you're just changing the directory. So you can do this. Now for example, if you really want to, there is something that you should know. If you really want to see the parameters of a file, in Linux, you can do cd space hyphen hyphen help. Now hyphen hyphen help tells you what all options you really have. For example, I can use hyphen p to use a physical directory structure, blah blah blah. And if I mean, this tells you what all parameters I can pass. But in Linux, you also have something called man page. You can Google also, and Google also you will see those man pages available. But if you do not really want to Google and do that, you can just really do man cd. I'll do less right now, but I'll later talk about what is less. There's no manual entry for this. Great. But I'm sure there'll be manual entry for grep, because cd doesn't really have a lot of things, right? Cd is just for changing the directory. Now for grep, for example, grep is the command that we use for search. If I really want to see what grep does, grep search for patterns in files. These are the options. This is what these options mean. You can really check everything. So you should, if you're not sure what the command does, what parameters you can use, you can either use hyphen hyphen help, or if you want in detail, you can use man. Okay, so right till now we talked about su, we talked about ls, and we talked about cd. Okay, now let's check how do we see what is my present working directory. You can see pwd is helps you find out what in which directory you are currently in. So pwd helps you get your present working directory. Then if I want to create, for example, I want to create a new directory here, I can use mkdir and testdir. So I used mkdir to create a directory. Now if I want to see if the directory is created, I can again use ls. So these are the commands which you will really touch base daily. Now I will change my directory to cd. Right, this is how I really navigate. In this, I really do not have anything. Now I've created a directory. Now when you have created a directory, you will copy files to that directory, you will move files to the directory. So let's do this. And then next command that I want to show you is the cp is really copying your files. Now for example, I am copying variables.sh in test directory. Okay, so cp, the file that I'm copying and where I'm copying. So I'm doing this, and this is I go to cd test dir, and if I do ls, my file is copied here. Now it doesn't really mean you are copying from one folder to another. I can really use these two variables, and I can just do copy. So if you see, now I have two files. Now cp you can really use to copy. Now you can also use cp to copy folders. Okay, if you are copying folder, you can use cp hyphen r will recursively copy all the folders and files in that particular folder. So for example, let's see if we have anything in temp. Cool, we have something in temp, right? So let me show you this. Okay, and I have this. Now in this I have a test directory. So let me show you this first. I want to copy this folder in my test dir. So what I'm really doing, I'm trying to copy this folder in this folder. Okay, and let's see if it works. It doesn't, because it tells there is a directory. It asks me that I should use cp-r. So if you want to really copy directories, if you want to recursively copy, in fact you want to copy directory, I have to use cp-r. So cp-r lets you copy directories. So this is about, so now you see I have directory in this now. So, and next command that I want to show you is mv. Now we have talked about cp. cp helps you copy. mv helps you move. If I wanted to move that folder, and for example in this, now let's clear this screen. ls, let's see what are folders we have. Okay, we have test. Now this. Okay, and imagine I want to okay, let's create a folder called mkdir mv test. Okay, now I have two folders. I have snap private and I have mv test. Now let's assume I want to move this folder into mv test. So I do mv again. Let's see if it works. Do you think it will work? Because I have folder. It does. Okay, now if I do mv MV doesn't really needs anything now in MV. So MV really helps you move it. Now it doesn't mean MV really lets you move. MV helps you rename also. Now for example, I have this folder. I want to rename this folder. How do I rename? I rename it to this, and I do rename. Okay, so MV first name or the original name or the file name and the rename name, and done. Now if you ls, my folder name, file name is renamed. It can be used for folder, it can be used for file, it can be used for anything. So we talked about ls, we talked about cp, copy, and mv, move also. Now next is rm. For example, I have this, and let's see what files we have. Ls is used for listing, right? So I want to see, I want to list what I want to list. I want to list whatever is in this folder. So I have this file. Okay, now and when I just do ls without any folder, it does in the present working directory, whatever directory I am part of. But if I want to ls a particular folder, for example, from here I want to ls temp. Okay, but I want to see what is in temp. I do not really have to switch my folder to temp. I can just do ls temp and I see whatever is in temp. So that is how you really deal with ls. Okay, now you can use grep also, or before grep, let me show you rm. Now in this folder I have snap private. Now let me do this, vi and mv test.txt. I just create a folder, a file, and this is test. I just created a file. Okay, now in this I have a file and a folder also. Now if I try to remove mv, it will not ask me anything, mostly because I'm logged in as a root. But if I was not, then it would ask me, and I'm able to remove. Now if I list, do I see the file? No, right? So rm helped me remove the file. Now if I try rm for the folder, will it work? What do you think? It doesn't, because it tells me it's a directory. For directory, what we do? We use -r. Now it removed. So anywhere you want a recursive, you use -r. It can be for cp, it can be for rm also, and it will be for similarly for grep also. I will show you. So we talked how you move, how you copy, how you do everything. Now let's assume, do we have anything in mv test? No, we do not have. Now here I have, do we have anything in test dir? Perfect. Now what files do I have in this folder? I have all these folders. Now imagine I want to search something in all the files. I can use grep. Now it is not necessarily in the files. I can use grep to search pattern in anything. I can use grep to search pattern in other commands also, which I will show after in couple of minutes. But I can use grep, and let's assume I want to grep bin where I want to grep. Now for example, if I just want to grep in one file, I can just use this, and it will tell me, okay, you have grep grep in this file. Okay, now see, it doesn't really, I mean, it tells me that there is bin, but if I really want to see which line it is available in, I can also use grep -n. So I mean, this is one of the factor why I really like Linux, because Linux helps you customize all the outputs and everything. And when in the last last video, when I really talk about automation and scripting, you will see how customizable it is. But for example, and Linux is case sensitive. Now let's assume I use bin and I use variable. Will it find? No, because this is case sensitive. Now it doesn't necessarily mean I will always remember the case. So I can use -i also. I means case insensitive. So it helps me do this. Now if I remember bin, I want to see there is something which is which excludes whatever is in bin. So it will list everything where bin is not available. So all other files which do not have bin, we excludes those things. So that is how grep works. Now if I want to check in all the files, okay, I am checking bin in whatever files are there in this particular folder. So it tells me, okay, I have this file in this file, or let's do this, grep -n. Okay, so in this file on line number one, I have been in this file on line number one, I have been, because I created a script, so the first line will always been. That's why you see all of these in line number one, but these ones all have been at line number one. But test dir, it is telling it is a directory. Okay, now how do I check in directory? Do you remember how do we do this? We use hyphen r. Hyphen r is for recursive, so it checks in the directory also. Here it told test dir is a directory, but now it is checking in the dir also. So that is what grep is. Now if I want to read any file, okay, let's clear the screen, and these are files. Okay, and let's see, let's jump back to this, and let's see, I just created a folder, and now we can use cat to read a file. Now if I want to read this file, I can do this, but see, it dumped everything on my screen. Now it's not really helpful. That is why I mentioned I do not really use cat. I can use less also. Now what less does is less opens it in the read format, but in interactive session it opens page by page. So first page is this, and then I can hit down arrow, and then it will go line by line. But if I imagine you have read all this and you want to go to next page, you can hit spacebar. Spacebar takes you to the next page. Now if I want to check something in the file, for example, I want to check default, okay, I can use forward slash, and then let's type default, and if I enter this, anywhere you see default will be highlighted, so it really helps me search also. See, wherever you see default will be highlighted. So less really gives you a lot of flexibility. You can go line by line, you can go page by page, you can search also. So if you really want to read anything, better use less. And now if I want to exit, I can just hit Q, and when I hit Q, it exits. Okay, so this is how you deal with file. You copy, you move, you read. And now in this, for example, I want to read initial 5 lines. Okay, it really okay, because the file is like this. Let's read some other file. So which file? Let's do head hyphen 5, and let's do part 7 backup. So it reads the initial 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. It actually read the 5. Okay, first of all, let me show you part 7 backup. This is my script. This is a script to back up a folder, not backup, actually just zipping. But head gives me initial 5 lines. Similarly, if I use tail hyphen 5, it will just give me last 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Tail 5, and then it gives me the last 5. Okay, so that is how you can use it. I can use tail 7 also, whatever you want. You can use this. Okay, now another thing that you must know is pipe thing. Now for example, I am doing, or let's assume I am doing man grep. Okay, it's giving me this, and I want to save it somewhere. Okay, I want to save it somewhere. I can use arrow, and I can just create a file, test.txt. Arrow lets me pass output of left side command and save it in the file in the right hand side file. And now if I see less test, this is what the command really did. So you can use arrow command to pass one output to another one, and then you can also use, let's do this. Okay, let's do this, and I can use pipe also. Now for example, I want to combine multiple commands. I want to, let's assume, do this, and then I want to grep something in this, and I'm grepping, obviously grep, there will be a lot of grep, and then I'm doing this. Okay, or I'm doing head hyphen 10. Okay, so what I'm doing, I'm running man on grep. I just told you what man command does, and I want to check, or let's do this, it is confusing actually. Let's do this default. I want to check in this command, wherever I see default, I want to search for default pattern in this command, and I want to check first 10 values this command returns. So it gives me, okay, so this here you will see default in all of these. That is what it did. It just searched it, and you see 10, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 and 10. So you can really use pipe to pass on command from one line to another line. So that's it for this one. I will. So what we really, just the background of what we did. We really talked about Linux CLI, how you navigate through Linux CLI, how you do the file and directory operations. I did not touch base on shell because this video is already half an hour long. In next videos, I will touch base on the shell and how you do the daily basic commands. I hope this video helped. If there is something else, please feel free to drop down in the comment and I will try to cover it. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye.